is that in the ultra luxury space, I'm one of those, maybe the only one of those operators which are ready to absorb more hotels, who can scale more and without losing what we're all about.
Welcome to TravelDine. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. I'm delighted to be with you. My name is Peter Bates and I'm here in New York. And with me today, our guest is an accomplished hotelier whose experience has been to open, renovate and reposition hotels across 3 continents. His career includes working for some of the most renowned hotel groups and brands in the world: Badrutt Palace in St Moritz, Four Seasons Hotels and Resorts, Regent Hotels, Shangri-La Hotels. And for 8 years, he was with the Dorchester Collection in London, where he was General Manager of the renowned Dorchester and the Regional Director for the Dorchester Collection. He now heads an iconic brand whose properties are described as meticulously designed to frame their natural surroundings and renowned for their space and privacy. Each guest is welcomed as if to the home of a close friend, instilling a sense of peace and belonging, and some of the world's most diverse natural and historic landscapes. Let me introduce you to Roland Fasel. He's the Chief Operating Officer for Aman, where he's been since 2017. In this role, he oversees all facets of Aman's intricate hotel, resort, and private residence operations, while defining the future vision and strategy for the brand. Welcome, Roland. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Oh my God, it sounds quite good. Thank you very much for this kind introduction, Peter. Much
it's
appreciated.
Very good to see you. How nice
Yeah.
you.
Pleasure is all mine. Pleasure is all mine.
So, tell us, how did you get started? How did you get into this business in the first place?
Well, my parents owned a hotel, very small hotel in Switzerland. And I kind of grew up in the business itself, and then I started the career professionally as a chef.
Yeah.
So I then, after 3 years in the kitchens, realized maybe I should re-engage in education in order to get to Lausanne. And then from Lausanne, I was obviously fortunate enough that particular education opened an entire barrage of opportunities and more global view on things, and then I was fortunate enough again to have Four Seasons, who hired me right out of school to go and open the Boston Four Seasons in with 85. So I got kind of lucky, and from there I settled in that ultra luxury space for obviously my entire career. I kind of was fortunate enough to then move with Four Seasons to Newport Beach, and then joined Rosewood at the Bel Air Hotel, and it just kind of all came together. And then I had this brilliant vision or aspiration to create competitive advantage. That's one of my things you will most likely hear again in this conversation. To create competitive advantage in my career, to go to Asia. And again, I was fortunate enough at that time under Bob Burns to join Regent Bangkok. And you obviously, I think we even maybe have met there. It was kind of a story, that region portfolio.
Absolutely.
So I kind of fortunately got into that really ultra space in Asia. Then I also wanted to learn something about more bigger hotels and more volume. I got lucky after 5 years at Regent to get a job at the Shangri-La in Singapore. Again, iconic, three products, kind of an incredible food and beverage offering. At every given day, there were 3,500, 4,000 people coming through those doors. It was quite a moment. And then I kind of, got an opportunity to go with Shangri-La to Jakarta and Kota Kinabalu and so forth. After 9 years in Asia, I felt it was time to come back. And then again, I got lucky with Rosewood and Badrutt Palace. And the rest, obviously, you have highlighted quite precisely. But, I was always kind of fascinated by the ultra luxury space. I got fortunate to get to know some of the greatest hotels and been managing some of the most phenomenal, iconic pieces. And very fortunate to come from a little village have seen and how much that industry has given me. And I try to inspire the next generation, or the generation even after that, to kind of see what it does and to which extent you can become global and what it can offer our industry.
Now, you're still associated with Lausanne, aren't you? You still do some work with Lausanne.
Yeah, I'm trying to get engaged as much as I can, and obviously recruit there. Once in a while, I'm on some of the panels. I wish I could do more, but this Aman job really to get to where we are today, and where we want to go to in over the next few years. The travel was a little bit, stopping my involvement to some of those institutions, unfortunately.
Yeah. And on the way, you got yourself an MBA as well, right?
Yeah. Okay. Education-wise, after Lausanne, I went to the US, and then yes, I felt there was a little bit of more curiosity there, academically speaking. So I did decide with Golden Gate University that had at that time a campus in Singapore. So I was able to go while I was working in Singapore to do this MBA over 2 years and get a full-fledged MBA. So yeah, quite excited. I think that, listen, at that time, actually, and I don't want to elaborate on this too much, but I think it's quite interesting. At that time when I did this, and I paid myself, so wanted to be completely independent, but I got then lucky that they tried to identify as a company what is the next general manager, what is the competency set of the next general manager, and what does it need for somebody to get to the next level. I'm talking about Shangri-La. And quite visionary, John O'Shea and that particular team. I mean, we know David Hayden, and we're quite advanced in their thinking on that level. And they kind of identify my competency set between academia and obviously the global experience, some language and so forth, as maybe be the next GM. So they kind of sponsor me quite aggressively to go and move forward. And I think I will always be grateful for that team. And at that time, being involved with like Shangri-La, we wrote strategy. I even remember writing the first strategy. It was called Journey to Dominance. Was the title of the first Shangri-La strategy, and literally addressing some of those points, which I also then carried forward into all the other repositionings or openings I've done.
Fantastic.
So yeah, so as you get along, actually, when you reflect, some of these key individuals like in Bel Air with Paul Zeus, who gave you a break. You have Bill Black at Region in Bangkok, gave you a break. Yeah. So you have this 4, 5, 6 people over the year, like a Chris Cowdery in London, who gave you a chance to get to the next level. I think you cannot be grateful enough for those individuals.
Yeah.
And now you got to do the same for people in your business, in my business.
I couldn't agree more. That's exactly the way forward. So Aman started and established in 1988, I think. Now 33 properties. Tell us about Aman today and your vision.
Well, I think where we got to at this particular moment is that when I joined, the myth of Aman and the reputation of Aman and everything which was moving, was established over the 30 years. I felt, and it was always the clear mandate, that I needed to bring in all the way back to purpose and values and our brand pillars and our strategies and all that stuff. That architecture needed to be really clearly articulated. And I think one of the best things, and the first thing we did, really is to establish from purpose to values to those key pillars, in order to be able to then create and bring in the building blocks to support all this, right? So I think if I look back for the last 4.5, 5 years, really to bring in these building blocks from a direction, leadership, financial acumen, real marketing structures, all these building blocks to create a scalable brand was I guess one of the first aspiration and one of the first goals we did deliver, which then, the financial acumen across the business really didn't exist. No. The agility, which as an entrepreneurial context we should have had, was never really stimulated and inspired. The resi sales piece, as an example, over the last 2 years, we have put together an incredible structure around resi sale and optimized something which actually was part of the DNA. So I think, you know, we have been able to bring in the structures, maintain the agility, you know, create a very strong pipeline in order to really, today I would say, be and I'm talking purely business, not only just you know, the marketing the story, is that in the ultra luxury space, I'm one of those, maybe the only one of those operators which are ready to absorb more hotels, who can scale more without losing what we're all about.
That's fantastic. And it must be an advantage. You're privately owned, aren't you? It's a privately held company. That helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, where I'm sitting, there's, you know, for me and for us to move so quickly and to have implemented, don't forget, you know, we created our own spa products, we have our own retail collection we just launched, we have a plane, we have all these verticals at the same time. Plus, I think we obviously opened a few hotels, Kyoto and Shanghai and so forth. We have 11 hotels in the pipeline. To do all this, you need a brilliant team who is willing, engaged and willing to really deal with that very quickly agile decision-making process. Yeah. And for nothing else, you know, we don't, there's no matrix, right? I mean, ultimately there's a single shareholder, is a real estate person, very quick, and the organization has to be showing the same level of agility, correct? And I think we're cutting out a lot of those discussions and making decision one-to-one. I think it helped us tremendously to get and move this asset forward, or this particular company forward. Now, the argument then is, but as we move forward, don't forget, as we have more independent owners, as we have to deal more with different asset managers, I think it will maybe restrict some of the speed, or the creativity. But ultimately, to this day, it is just the speed on how we were able to move things along. Then it is, as we speak, you and I, that's the kind of way we make decisions, correct? And that's how it works. And also, in the development side and the resi sales side, obviously it's his core competency as well, correct? So when you go and pitch, and I've been on so many of those on these pitches, when you have the person who actually has the checkbook, number two, the understanding of the person across, that particular piece, a lot of people underestimate, you know? So if you don't deal to a guy who has been a developer, knows real estate, knows how to optimize the Aman brand per se, it helps a lot on how to get the person across who wants to invest in the Aman piece to sign off quicker and faster and so forth.
So in terms of weaknesses, I mean, you said the financial systems perhaps need to be re-energized, perhaps put a stronger financial strategy in there. I guess on the strength side, agility and a strong brand name. Anything else that really sticks out there?
Yeah, I think the creativity. I think the agility, creativity, risk. Yeah, don't forget we're taking risk with all the verticals. Yeah. And the verticals are not white labels. These are all developed from ground up, from your spa products, your Chinese medicine, your retail collection. I mean, these are major pieces which a lot of brands that just don't have the appetite to take the risk to front the money in order to build and do that heavy lifting, correct? Yeah. Right. But I think that the financial piece, I think today is very solid, and you know, I mean, we increased profitability in 4.5 years by 93% across the brand. I have not one hotel in 19 who lost money, which was completely different previously. So some of this stuff, I think we have done an extraordinary job. And also, you know, the resi and focus on resi sales with the branding fees and so forth, you underestimate how much that can actually add to a brand like ours, correct? Where you all of a sudden have, you're from Japan, where it's the first Aman residences, but Cabo San Luca, Miami, all this off-plan, all the sales coming in and how much they can actually contribute. So That's how I think that's how I feel that it's all part of strength. The weakness, I think the weakness, I'm not quite sure if it's a weakness or I think it's more an opportunity to improve. As we grow and as we, I'm trying right now to look at the PropCo, OpCo, then I still have a lot of the OpCo and PropCo mixed together, right? We have one consolidated piece. So as we move forward, I think it would be, I would recommend, and I'm working on it, maybe to separate, to have better focus on the OpCo operational piece, and obviously the OpCo is a different business, and when you may not realize it in good times, but you definitely realize it the last 14, 16 months, correct? So I think opportunity to improve definitely on that kind of level of structures and fine tuning some of those components.
So you say there are 11 hotels in the pipeline. Is there a critical number? I mean, how do you keep this very personal company, this very creative company? It's a niche company. How do you keep that? What is there a critical number you can get to?
Yeah, I mean, again, part of strategy in 2025, we wanted to be at 45 to 48 hotels. The reality is, and that's also good with the owner. There's a relentless pursuit of not to compromise at any given moment. So you have very clearly defined brand pillars, which we can apply, be it in a resort or be it in a city. Balance and intuitive host, which means the service piece. All those brand pillars, you can if you stick relentlessly to it. Of course, if you start compromising, you need to be very careful. But I think we're quite aligned that we turn down more deals than we accept. Correct? It has to all come together. On be it in the destination which are remote or are far-fetched, or in the cities, correct? I mean, you can do Tokyo and Bangkok at a superior level, and then go to New York and LA and then compromise on your location or your aspiration, correct? You cannot do that. But that's why also maybe we cannot go into every city. So I think one piece is that the relentless pursuit of our brand pillars and the DNA, and stick to that, plus to keep on focusing on the field and the general managers, which ultimately are my brand. Yeah? Right. I mean, let's not fool. Yes, are they? Did they have to evolve to become more business savvy and become more the custodian of assets and so forth? Yes, but ultimately the GMs are still getting all the freedom in regards of delivering that Aman spirit and that Aman energy and that Aman spirit is, I guess, the best word of it. So we still very much rely on the translation of what we want to achieve with the GMs in the field to deliver that. The experiences. I mean, we have been in the experience business for 30 years, correct? Yeah. But we need to keep on innovating, correct? Yeah. And that kind of freedom to be creative and so forth, we're never taken away from the GMs. The GMs still have literally, you welcome as a guest and you leave as a friend, and you welcome somebody to your home. Other than that, okay, the back of the house, yes, we have a lot of building blocks which had to be put in to keep financial kind of a safety net. But up front, we haven't really, we never came in with the manuals. We never came. Right. So that creativity, that passion, that connection to the experience and the destination you operate in, I think it's still very much with the GMs. Okay. So that's how I feel we can maintain, we can grow, and I think 45 to 48 Amans on the same level. I think we can still deliver quite extraordinary work.
That's fantastic. So on top of all that, the residences and the residential business, which obviously is driving a lot of revenues at the moment, is very interesting. And mixed-use development is something now very popular with everybody. Although, of course, in 1988, when the company started, they had residences then as well, didn't they? They were leaders. But now you're creating a new brand, Janu, I think.
Yeah.
which you announced about 18 months ago. And I think the first one is going to come out in 2023 in Montenegro.
Yes.
Sort of.
Yes. Yeah. Well, listen, no, the aspiration is Montenegro. 2023. Japan would be shortly thereafter, but it could also be that potentially it's the other way around. But ultimately, yes, Janu launched it just the beginning of March 2020, so perfect timing. But I think we have an opportunity there to create a sister brand. The hotel obviously will be bigger. It will be run as an independent, independent kind of a structure. And yes, currently we have three signed, sealed, and delivered, and then there's 2 more pretty much there but not announced. Right. So we have substance. I mean, that brand has substance. It's all about rethinking your balance in life. It's all about obviously Aman says peace and Janu says soul. It's more about finding your community, more energy in the food and beverage piece, and so forth. It's still competing at a 5-star level. I mean, it's still, base product will still be 45 to 50 square meter rooms. So it's still a luxury product, but it gives us another opportunity.
So when you say you'll run it separately, I presume the back of the house will be very similar in terms of all the services, but will it have its own management team or
yeah.
No, it will.
Yeah, I think, okay, there is a initial building up piece until you get to critical mass. But I have a strong aspiration. I would have most likely hired the person today or this year. And I got to bring somebody potentially in. Then if with the Aman, kind of very culturally tight, and we are all in that Aman spirit. If I don't find somebody who really gets this brand and runs with it on its own, they have a tendency to kind of water down your own brand, and that's very risky. I'm very aware, and it has to obviously be very, very. It's a sister brand, and it has to be. Yes, some of the Aman values we will find, like celebrating communities, will be part of the DNA of Janu. But ultimately, I strongly suggest, and I really am pushing to have a complete different infrastructure. Of course, it will sit on some of the, like we have done incredible work on CRM and have my own platform and all that stuff. So all that stuff, it will sit on it, but ultimately everything around the brand pillars, everything around innovation and energy has to be, I think it has to be definitely its own team.
Yeah. And you could have a Janu and an Aman in the same destination?
Yes, we have it in Janu in Tokyo. Yeah. In Tokyo, we have the Aman Tokyo, the Janu Tokyo, and Aman residences. Yeah. And the Aman residences are independent from the Aman Tokyo.
Wow. Okay, so we'll look forward to hearing more about that brand as it develops. But closer to home and much more immediate, you're of course opening your second major city. Having had a really successful launch in Tokyo, you're now coming to New York, right? Later this year. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, New York is obviously, I think I always say there will be an Aman prior to opening of New York, and then there will be Aman post New York, right? Yeah. I mean, I think we found a brilliant location on 57th and 5th in this Crown building. And as challenging as it is right now, long term, I think it's an absolute coup, right? Yeah. So we are building a hotel where we spend 1.3 billion on it, and that's before the change orders. Where the smallest room is roughly 70 square meters, where you have spas of 2,500 I think square meters of roughly 30,000 square feet on 3 floors. I mean, we are going to deliver something exceptional, correct? The team we're bringing together, then ultimately I can give or Flat can deliver an incredible product, but I still need to translate the culture and the brand pillars again, the purpose and values, and then ultimately the service proposition to warrant the rates I need in order to have some sort of returns, correct?
Right.
So, but it's very aspirational. It's just things like there's not one ceiling pretty much below 3 meters. We cut out beams. We did everything possible to give you that generosity of space. The terraces on the 10th floor, it's year round. You have a bar right sitting on 57th and 5th. I'm a little bit biased, but I think the team we have assembled around Rudy, Dorchester, and so forth, I think is going to be able to embrace our values, embrace our culture, and really deliver an interpretation of what we want to do in the New York context.
Incredible, difficult city to operate.
It's very difficult to operate. I mean, we spend a lot of time on finding ways of how to structure this properly. If the construction side of the thing is an indication on how difficult it's going to be over the next 20, 30 years, yes, we have our work cut out, Peter. I think it's a very, very challenging environment. I think new builds are tricky, but renovations and what we've done here is another level of challenge, and in the New York context, there's a lot of underlying and complexity you don't anticipate. Right. So we'll be grateful to open it in a few months. And then, but I think timing may be quite okay, even if it's late. I think timing actually may play in our favor, that we kind of, as the city reopens, we open with it an extraordinary hotel. And I hope it will appeal to the New York market, and then obviously to the world at large. But to come back for the brand, to go into New York in that location with the feeder market there, with all the gurus in hospitality there, I think it will just catapult us to another level of brand recognition and so forth.
Fantastic. It's 83 keys and 22 residences?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Well, we wish you every success with that. But you've dwelled a little bit on your staff, and it seems to me that from the very beginning, the Aman philosophy is all about thinking local in everything you do. I've always admired the number of local associates in each property. Very few expats, I've always noticed. How do you achieve the standards for which you're so well known in terms of delivery and service when you go into a new location?
Yeah, I think, again, it's a selection of the leader who is going to embrace the very limited amount of policies and procedures I have, right? Yeah. So you do need to find these unique leaders who can inspire the entire group of people locally. And I think, like New York as an example, where you have a significantly bigger group of individuals coming up from outside of the business, it will take some work to Amanize them, correct? But I still believe that the success and the failure of opening those hotels and scaling this business to 45 to 48 lies with my general manager and the support he has obviously regionally, and the support he has obviously on the managing director level, which is 2 individuals around the world. But I think I cannot, I cannot stress that enough, that with the freedom we give to GM, if you hire the right guy and we identify the right, there's a lot of that work which is done automatically, correct? Of course, in the last 4.5, 5 years, I have created a human resource department. I am now, have learning and development. I just rehired a guest experience, a guy who's going to go around the world talking and preaching and so forth. But some of this fundamental stuff you need to do. Some of it will add value, but if I don't have the right leader who really understands that local context, who embraces the local community, who is able to then bring in the Aman spirit, you will never get there. And I can't. I'm always so grateful, and particularly also what the GMs now can went through. Can you imagine? I mean, that Jonathan in Bhutan, it started, and 2 months later, it has been closed down. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that kind of sticking with it and keeping people happy and inspired. I mean, you cannot really thank them enough.
The messaging across the world, you've got employees in so many different places. We've just been through a very tragic and difficult time. Hotels closed. How have you been keeping in contact?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and I always think I could have done better, but I have done obviously virtual state of the company address. I've done a virtual conference to the leadership, the excom, and everybody who wanted to sit in. I do my corporate call once a week. I lead two calls to the general managers a week. Where now I moved to 2 weeks in order to get updates on the local COVID situation. We send videos. We do all kinds of employee related pieces, birthday parties, and so forth where we can. But listen, has it been trying? There's a huge void here. I mean, I'm trying to do a dialogue, but ultimately it becomes more of a monologue. And we were so pumped up in Marrakesh in 2020, coming out of 19. Yes, I think I need to rekindle that spirit as soon as possible, but I don't think I can really do it just over Zoom and Teams, correct? Yeah. So I've done as much as we can. I've done from, as I said, an entire cascade of communicating, but it will not beat in our business, in the hospitality business, a session with the teams itself.
Let's switch gear a little bit. We hear more and more about from our clients about sustainability, right? It's an important aspect. But the founders of Aman had already built that foundation for you in a way. I mean, it was something that they recognized back in 1988, I think. But how have you rolling out sustainability today? How are you driving that forward?
Yeah, I think it's been part of the Aman DNA for sure. But what I have done as we did create these brand pillars, it's only about 2, maybe 3 years ago, I call it kaiteki. Kaiteki is in Japanese, taking care of obviously the planet and the people and so forth, and the environment, and made it part of the brand pillars. I mean, it was a major move to talk about it, and everybody is doing it. Don't forget, and I get to that, we're doing a lot of it, but just to elevate the conversation and make it part of the brand pillars, which is then presented to the developers and so forth. So one part of the brand pillars today with Aman, when you pitch for business, has to be sustainability. Yeah. And ultimately, I'm structured around that, then a strategy where I have somebody who helps me from the outside as well. The yardstick is obviously everything about UN sustainability development goals. Yeah, there's a SDG they're called. So that's the hanging piece. And then internally, it's all about my local heritage and my local culture, my environmental protection, and the social responsibility. So that's are the 4 pillars locally I embrace. And we have done competitions. We do, they have to update the chairman of the sustainability committee, which is a gentleman in Singapore, Marco Frank. So we have really, then even, I'm just doing a project in the Bahamas. The developer there wanted to, like an RFP nowadays, they want to know what you actually do, and not just, the turtles in Amanyara. You need to go and have a strategy, and then what are you doing? And then we were able today on the 4 pillars to demonstrate what's being done from Bhutan to Amanyara and Turks and Caicos back to, when you tell a developer about Shanghai and what he has done with the 10,000 trees and stuff like that, so we have stories over and over again. But now I think I have been able, as they became part of the band pillars, to really again bring in some structures into the discussion. But as I said, we have the UN goals and we know where to go. We have locally 4 pillars. We do our tactics and structures on it and so forth. So ultimately, it is absolutely one of the key pieces of what you have in this business. And to your point, luckily, the local relationships, the embracing of and sponsoring of schools in the Philippines, it has been very, very much part of what we do on a daily basis. And integrate this into experiences. I mean, Aman integrated that stuff into experiences 20, 30 years ago, right? Now everybody tries to do it, and I just gotta stay fresh and creative and so forth. But yes, absolutely. I mean, I cannot stress this enough. You cannot, everybody with any sort of sarcasm and there's it's enough documented today to demonstrate that we have to start and we need to take it serious. It's not going to go away, and there is a lot at stake, right? Even there is 33 hotels, you need to play. And it's not always easy. Then there's all kinds, but I'm relentlessly pursuing that.
But it's interesting you say that developers are asking about it. I mean, that's important. If they're getting the message too and they're coming into the project with sustainability in mind, that's at least a help, isn't it?
It's phenomenal, actually. It's I mean, part of the pitching project that not only the business people and the asset manager of that particular company, but the principal. As the principal is interested and the principal is known for environmental and sustainability initiatives, they practically said you will have to pitch to the principal for that particular project what and how and are we going to do this creatively. Then you can do all kinds of stuff, and that was quite interesting. The first time we had to do this as a official thing to the principal of a major project in the Bahamas. It's quite, but and hopefully it will continue, right? I mean, hopefully the new generation of developers embrace that. And
without a doubt, it's here to stay, and it's something everybody's looking at. India and Middle East are important to Oman, aren't they? You've got 2 properties, I think, in India already, and now you're entering Saudi Arabia, I think, with 3 projects. Saudi is working hard to attract tourism, yet many in our industry are cautious about the destination. And some of our clients also are very cautious about destination. You obviously feel for Oman you can be successful there. What gives you that confidence?
Well, first, there's obviously a big picture strategy here, which the hotels are one part of it, right? And obviously there is other things we are pursuing with the Saudis. But one, obviously, the hotel piece. I do believe one of our values is nurturing our Pathfinder spirit. And I think catering to that particular value of nurturing our Pathfinder spirit, as much as we're progressing into the urban context, I don't want to lose that. Then it's part of one of the values we created. And I think actually the cities will allow us to take a little bit more risk in going into the Mustangs of the world or Saudi Arabias of the world, where we may, or 10 years ago into Montenegro for that matter. I mean, so everybody was saying, why would we go 10 or 12 years ago to Montenegro? But we were also the first player there. We were the first players in Bhutan. We were the first player in many of those destinations. And Saudi is not dissimilar. I think actually Saudi, I have great hopes with the aspiration and the drive and the energy that they will develop. It's maybe a little bit of a long cycle to it. I think people need to become much more comfortable, but they are putting the energy and the focus and the strategy and the vision behind delivering a new destination. And for me, as one of the values is nurturing my Pathfinder spirit, it would be crazy not to go there.
Yeah. I like that Pathfinder spirit. That's a great thing. We've heard over the years all about Aman junkies, right? And I know it's not something that Aman created. It was created by the junkies themselves in a way. Some of them have been with you a long time and they're getting older. How are you attracting, you talked about the new generation of hoteliers. What about the new generation of clients? How are you going about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think, okay, the Aman Junkie being the self-advocacy group, which we very much appreciate, and they communicate amongst themselves, and it's a self-driven group of individuals which help us, like in an opening of a hotel. They're always going to be the first one who want to be there. It's quite a phenomenal, a little bit intangible, really, as concept. It's not like they're highlighted in a CRM of a thing as a particular thing. It's just really.
You mean they don't have their own rate code?
No. Good idea, but no, we're not quite there. So, but it's a spirit. It's an aspiration people obviously have, and some of them, if you look at the list of the people who have been to many of the Amans, who commit a lot of time every year to go to Amans, they are not the obvious names. Yeah, there's an entire group of individuals who is all about curiosity. It's all about developing a new destination, and may that continue, maybe fuel that, and maybe cater to that particular spirit for sure. And that's why, as I said, we need new destinations, and we need to keep on exciting that group of individuals. But with all the efforts in regards of driving some of the direct business, in improving my websites and improving my Instagrams and all the social media piece, actually 44% of my business, 55% of my business comes from 44 and below. Yeah. Wow. So I think I actually have had that transition and that generational kind of transfer. I am quite comfortable, and I'm tracking this quite intensely. I do believe that we have, and now coming out of this, with the cross-generational travel, with all that stuff we see coming, with a lot of people who made a lot of money in the finance world, and some of the, I think my product will cater to that need and that demand, but I also will continue to rejuvenate my group of loyalists, and I will create new ones. But ultimately, it is quite interesting that I have 55% of my business, my rooms business, coming out from 44 and below.
Fantastic.
Listen, I also that's the big changes of what I feel that the last 4 or 5 years have brought, correct? I mean, we are using, revenue management. We are going after weddings. I am accepting kids and families, all that stuff. Of course, it will have a direct impact. I mean, we move from mid-30s to over 50s in regards of occupancies, correct? And I think it will continue to be a product which will appeal to more and more individuals in that, of course, in that bracket, correct?
Yeah. But and the pandemic, in a way, is going to accelerate that because people want more space, and I think they want to get away. They want more privacy, and those are things that Oman have always been strong.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as I said, the generosity of space, even in Tokyo. I mean, if you look at that lobby and stuff like that,
it's amazing.
It's just amazing. And New York is not going to be far off and far behind. And then also what we did, like in Amangiri with the tents. I mean, that's again, just perfect timing. Yes, it was delayed, but it was perfectly timed to accommodate the needs and the demands of today's customers. So I'm very, very optimistic, and we're excited for the future. And the future means that we will have growth. We will create more verticals. We also maybe, create something, about maybe a yachting or something like that. So we have still a lot of energy, a lot of passion to move this brand to the next levels.
Fantastic. So we can expect 45 to 48 Amans around the world, a new product in Janu, and a big private residential product as well. I mean, they all sound parts of this. So thank you so much indeed for joining us. This has been fascinating. On behalf of everybody at TravelDine, thank you very much indeed, Roland, for joining us today and giving us this opportunity to learn so much. This is Peter Bates signing off and saying we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated.